Okay, we're going to do another session on, let me get settled in here. We were talking this morning, turn around, about Fairview and moving to San Jose, and, well, no, we weren't talking about Fairview yet. We were talking about Jonathan, your very first house, and that was new. You moved into it as a tract house, but then I don't know how long we lived there, a year, maybe? I think you rented that place, didn't you? Or?
Well, yes, we rented it.
So then you finally moved to...
We lived there about a year.
About a year. Then you got Fairview,
Right.
which was a cul-de-sac, and that's where the memories of at least Sister Patty, and certainly me, I remember all that stuff, but, you know, there were the Helen, was the older kid Patty's age across the street, and we used to do plays around that cul-de-sac, and there were, I remember all the neighbors in that area.
Right. You were old enough to, you don't do them better than I did, you know.
Probably, because I played with them all the time,
Yeah.
and that's, yes, so, but, you know, that's where we had the vegetable truck man come by and sold
Right.
fresh fruit and vegetables. You still had milk delivery.
Right.
But it was a nice little enclosed cul-de-sac, and it got us started on Willow Glen.
It was all new homes, see.
At that time, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, they don't look new now, but yeah.
No. And then they were new.
So, and in the business, Wally came in. Do you remember Wally coming on board?
Right.
Did Dick and Rod argue long and hard over that, or was it a sort of
No.
something they wanted from the beginning?
I think Rod wanted it more than Dick because I think they were getting into trouble.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't selling enough to make enough money, make any money, you know, and pay the rent, do this and that. So they realized that they needed help some way, and it just was Dick's nature that when Rod wanted to bring in Wally, which was a very sensible thing to do. He was a good person.
Mm-hmm.
For that spot. But Dick hated the thought of not being in control.
Yeah.
And it was hard for him to take that jump. But then when they got so that they were either do it or close up, he bowed down. And he always got along with him. But he never wanted somebody to be able to give him
Sure.
a top order or something.
That's understandable, and I think...
And all men are that way, really.
I think the Andrews are that way. Patty's that way as well as me, so, yes.
Right.
I don't know that it's male, it could be, but I think...
And he didn't ever let it get him into trouble. He and Wally were good friends, and there was never any trouble. But always he wanted people to know that he started the business, you know. It was $40, $400.
Yeah.
It started the business. And
yeah, because Wally brought money into the
he
thing.
brought money and experience.
And a couple of customers.
Yes.
And his expertise balanced the group, because
yes.
he wasn't a salesman, really. He was a businessman.
Office. He took care of the office. They weren't any good. They put me in charge of the office for half a year. And that just simply meant keeping the books and being there to answer the phone, you know.
And filing things. I can imagine those two guys
They didn't have anything much to file.
Yeah. But still, in a business, you have to have order and be able to...
But you have to have it, yes.
Answer questions. You know, somebody says, what I got last week, I want the same thing.
Well, they got these big tables, and they were always empty, and I had to keep them clean and find things to put on them, you know, business things, not anything womanish.
Yeah. Well, but in those early days, still at the Quonset hut, that's when people came on board like Norm and Luke. I'm not sure what the timing was on each of those two, but Jack Agler and so forth.
Yes. I forget who the first one was, Jack. If I was a little quiet and I'll try to think of it later. How
And
they
Lucy came on board somewhere along the line?
Lucy was the first girl, and they finally recognized that they needed that.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, that was all at the Quonset. I remember them. I mean, it was, and it got too crowded then.
Yes.
And that's when they moved on. And so, but the house on Fairview was a perfect house. I guess maybe not for grown-up kids, or we were getting older and wanting to have people over and stuff like that. Was it on Fairview when we were still, or was it Glendale when Patty got rheumatic fever?
That was, what's the name of this? What did you just say?
Fairview or Glendale?
Glendale. Oh, no, I think she was in Glendale.
Okay.
And,
so she was still going to Willow Glen Elementary probably
right.
at, when we were at Fairview.
Right.
Although Fairview was when I started at Willow Glen Edwin Markham, the junior high school.
Right.
I was, I think, 2 years at Willow Glen Elementary and then off to, yeah, so I would have done that and then moved over to Edwin Markham while we were still at Fairview. So when did you sort of stop working at Industrial? When did they make enough that, was it when Wally came in that?
When Wally came in.
That he took control over that
right,
kind of stuff.
Right, and I think they got didn't they have a girl in there for a while? I don't.
Well, that would have been Lucy.
Lucy, yeah.
And these were the days, I remember, where when you went to celebrate, you went to the Hawaiian Gardens. Do you remember the Hawaiian Gardens?
Oh, yes. Oh, that was big time.
And us kids just loved it.
Yes, and sometimes it would cost $5 a person.
Yeah.
For our drinks and meal. First class meal.
Yeah. The $3.95 special, huh?
Yeah.
Plus a cocktail, yeah. But it was a great place for kids to be able to run around those gardens, and you guys could talk business all night long. So you and Dick and Rod and Wally and Rod and Eula went there, I know.
Well, quite often. That was to celebrate. That was anything we could celebrate. We'd go there and have a $5 dinner.
Yeah.
Whereas if we went to a regular restaurant at that time, just to Dick and me go out to eat, Dick and I go out. Probably the dinner for both of us would be close to $3.
Yes.
But here it was like $5 a person. That was high.
Well, I remember those days as well of when you took the kids out. Patty and I out, there were, what would you call them? I don't even know what you call them these days. Restaurants where it was all plastic. That was the hot rave thing. But where they had waitressed food, but it was at tables that were built into the wall. So it was more like a
soda. Help yourself?
No, it wasn't help yourself. No, it was waitressed served food, but it was really cheap. You would take Patty and I out to dinner where we'd get a hamburger, and Dickie would probably get, meatloaf and drinks. And you went to these places because you could get drinks there, beer and wine or whatever. You could have it. He liked his cocktail for dinner, and these are the kind of places where kids were okay. Little dinette type tables, and you could sit 4 to a booths, and but it was all a Formica tabletop and.
Dick didn't like them because a tabletop like that he was never comfortable. Just couldn't relax.
Yeah.
It was usually a what do you call it? Built-in seats.
Yes, built-in seats. Yeah, booths or
and in his mind, when you went out to dinner, and you spent that big money, like $5 a person, you want to be able to relax and.
But the cheaper places like that in Willow Glen were cheap. I mean, we probably got hamburgers for 75 cents.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, and that kept us quiet. So the kids didn't really need much more than a glass of milk and a hamburger, and they were.
Well, you could get I think this is right. You could get a high-type course, 3 or 4 course dinner, what we call them now. You know, soup and salad and the dinner for, if you paid $2.50 a piece, that would be
a lot, yeah.
But yeah, you get a nice dinner for that.
Yeah, and then those are sort of the neighborhoody type places where it's locals night, you know, and the $1.95 special. That'd be the special. Spaghetti and meatballs. Great for kids.
They were high on Sunday dinner.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we grew up trying all those places. I remember all those, because those are the ones we loved, because they're the ones we went to. I also remember special occasions when we'd get spaghetti to bring home from La Villa. Their spaghetti and meatballs was the best in the world. Yeah, still is.
Probably, yeah.
It's still there, and it's still really good stuff. So.
Do they have any place like that around here? That isn't.
No, you know what's taken the place, because at that time there were no fast food places. McDonald's wasn't invented yet, and it's been those kind of family, local, neighborhoody things restaurants have been replaced by fast food.
Right.
So you just drive through. You know, people they don't even bother with sitting down at a table to talk. You know, do a family sit down. You just drive through and throw a bag at everybody. There's your dinner, fries and a hamburger. It's still the same price for a couple bucks, and they can just eat in the back seat of the car on the way home, which they do. But yeah, we've lost a lot of the family togetherness of eating meals, because we always ate meals together, either at home or out in a restaurant.
Well, 7th grader today is much more grown up than you were in the 7th grade, just before you got started into high school. You were still a little kid, but not today, when they were mature at 5.
Well, yes, we regret all of that stuff, but it does happen. So that was the Hawaiian Gardens, and I do remember the.
That was where, if you really wanted to splash, you went to the Hawaiian Gardens. They had, it was very expensive compared to what you could get some other places.
Now, Fairview brought sort of California easy living. It had an awning over the back porch, so that we actually had a backyard we could barbecue and sit out on the deck on, sort of.
And you had a garden out there.
And a garden. And being a cul-de-sac, it was safe for the kids. We could play in the street. It had a lot of the amendments that made it really. I assume you felt as though you guys had made it in California. You were established now.
Right.
The good life. You were leading the good life. And that was 1950. We're talking about 1950 in Fairview. Patty was 10, and I was 12, I guess.
You did a lot of playing in the street, and that was a subject of discussion. It really was safe.
Yeah, because of the cul-de-sac. Yeah.
And the people all had kids. They all were. Everybody that drove up that street.
Yes, it was a self-protective neighborhood. Everybody knew everybody and watched out for other people's kids.
It was only about 2.5 blocks long.
Right. Right.
And then it ran into this one of the grade school down to the end, wasn't it?
Yes.
But when you went to high school, it was on the the big street.
Yeah.
I can't
Yes.
remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember this.
So, and along the way, somewhere along that, while we were at Fairview, that's when they opened up Industrial Tool at out on.
Oh.
They moved it again. I mean, yeah,
Right.
into a proper building.
Yes. That was a big deal, big move.
And Lucy, you write here in your autobiography, actually played with Patty when she was a young little girl.
She took, yes, kind of took care of her. Lucy did.
That's,
You know,
I did.
Lucy was probably, I can't remember her well at all. I wasn't close enough to her. But she was probably about 18 years old then.
Oh, yeah.
Teenager, I think.
Yeah.
And so, she played with Patty, took care of Patty, and, you know, that walked them down the street or whatever came up.
I remember the dog, Wags, and the cat, Bobo.
Right.
Boo-Boo. Boo-Boo.
Boo-Boo.
Yeah. And that was a memorable trip we took on a vacation going to Carson City, Nevada, where with the Bucket of Blood Saloon and the...
I don't have any memory of that.
Yeah, it was probably your first trip to Reno and going up into the Sierra Nevada mountains and the gambling and all of that kind of stuff. I don't think...
But you're saying that we took you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I still have pictures of me at the Bucket of Blood Saloon.
Right.
And that was when, on Fairview there, where we got our first television set, and I'd watch Howdy, that was days of Howdy Doody, and what was the other puppeteer that was the nice woman? Kukla, Fran, and Ollie.
Oh, yeah.
Fran.
Right.
Fran. So, and it was at the end of that stage, and before somewhere around the same time as the transition to Glendale, that Industrial did move out of the Quonset, and it was to Stevens Creek Road.
Uh-huh.
Still not their own place yet. It was still rented, but it was a much bigger, and it was on a commercial, still, you know.
Yeah, I haven't any mental picture of that. I don't think I was there very much.
Probably not.
It was a shorter period of time.
Yeah, it was they were only there a couple of years, but it was...
I was getting you into high school.
It was formative for me because that's when I started working there.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked there until I was 16 or 17, actually. So, you know, they were there probably 3 or 4 years, 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason they moved that direction was that San Jose was expanding up the peninsula.
Right.
I remember that when we were little kids, and you used to go shopping for fresh chickens and eggs out in the country. I mean, it seemed like it took hours driving on country roads to get to Sunnyvale. And there was a chicken farm there where you would pick out, I want this, and this, and this, and they'd give you fresh eggs and fresh chickens, and they do the butchering. So, but that was a major undertaking to drive to Sunnyvale and back, because I don't know what road it was on at that point, but it was around that time that now did your mother come out, which means your father died, while we were at Fairview or Glendale? She wound up at the Turbines.
Neither one of those. Fairview was
a smaller house at the end of a cul-de-sac.
That's where I think we were.
Yeah, I think so too. And there wasn't enough room for her to move in, so she
she visited several times.
Yeah, she stayed there a few times. That's where it was. And then she found Mr. Turvin in Sunnyvale.
Right.
Who worked out beautifully because you and Dickie started playing bridge with him, didn't you?
Occasionally.
Yeah, I mean, just it wasn't regular type stuff, but and she cared for him and there was a daughter. His daughter.
Well, he had a grown.
a
grown. She was 60.
Yeah.
When we knew her. his wife had been dead for a long time, and his daughter. So he lived with his daughter, who had never married,
Mm-hmm.
and she was. I'm looking back now, but at least 50, between 50 and 60.
Yeah.
She was not a young girl
No.
at all, and she had been teaching for years and years.
Right. And wanted to continue doing that, which is why they needed to put on somebody. They needed somebody to help out around to take care of him.
With his father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and those were the days. But so she moved to Sunnyvale as well, and we would go visit her, and that was a long trip to Sunnyvale.
Right.
Yeah. But the industry was moving up the peninsula, following 101, really, the El Camino Real highway, and it had moved to Sunnyvale, and the Silicon Valley at that time was from Sunnyvale up to Palo Alto about, because Stanford was, the businesses were building and opening up south of Stanford and north of San Jose. So being on Stevens Creek Road was an ideal location there. And I followed all that too, because I've spent summer times driving delivery trucks when I was 16, 17, a couple of years.
Patty never worked at the office, at least not very much, did she?
No. No, she didn't. Yeah, that was great for me. I learned quite a bit. Okay, well, we're going to leave off there, and we'll go into Glendale coming up after that, because that was really high school for Patty and I, and then the foreign exchange students, Hal and Vaughn, coming up on Glendale. But we'll cover that at another time. I'm going to shut this down now and get some more wine.
It's a shame. It's hard for me to remember any of that.
But it's coming back.
It comes back. Something I'll get a picture.
Yeah.
Of a house or the room or.
Yeah.
Something.
Good. Okay.